Hi. Recently, I was really inspired when I watched the movie Gifted Hands. It's the story of Ben Carson. Some of you might have heard of Ben Carson. He's probably the most foremost brain surgeon for children. He's a pediatric brain surgeon. But some time ago in his life, he's now in his early 60s, he was labeled the class dummy. He grew up in a family where he had his brother Curtis, and he was raised by a single mom. His mom prayed to God one time, and she asked God, Lord, what should I do with my kids? It was like they were addicted to television. And she felt God speak to her and say, you know what? They should cut down their TV watching. And then she gave them a reading program. She said to her kids, you know what, you guys? I want you to read 2 books a week. That was quite a lot for them because they didn't read. And remember, they were labeled the class dummy. 2 books a week. And then after reading them each week, I'd like you to give me a report. Now, unbeknownst to them, she couldn't actually read, but she would pretend she could read, so they submitted these reports. What happened with Ben was one day he was in class, and his teacher raised in his hand a rock, and he asked the class, who can tell me what's the name of this rock is? And Ben looked around, he waited for the smart kids to respond. The smart kids didn't say anything. He waited for the so-called dumb kids to respond. They didn't say anything. And then Ben, who had been reading books on geology, shouted out, it's obsidian, sir, it's obsidian. And for a while, his teacher stood, obviously shocked, because the answer was correct. And he said out to the class, it is indeed obsidian. And then, of course, as many of you know, he ended up going to Yale University. He ended up going to the University of Michigan. He ended up being the first person to conduct that very tough operation. And that was the splitting of the 2 heads of the Siamese twins. How does someone who was once labeled class dummy rise to a place where they become something so great and a role model in society? And that's the journey I want to take you through in this process of becoming a shaper.